All right, Teach Better Family and Admin Mastermind participants, it's great to see you on this video as we're going through the recap. And as you can notice, I have someone different than someone on the Teach Better team with me because I have the phenomenal Bobby French, who has been an Admin Mastermind participant for quite some time, join me to kind of talk through our recap. And Bobby, it was great to see you and then some new familiar faces with the group this morning.
It was a great group. It's so nice. I just love coming to Mastermind, and then we had a few new faces that I haven't seen for a while, so it was nice.
It's awesome. And it's funny because the last couple of weeks, the weather has been just chaotic for so many folks. And so, they are either at home or they have a late start. And so they're being able to join us on Tuesday mornings. And it's great to see everyone join us and have those conversations.
I think that's the best thing about Mastermind is it's there for you every Tuesday at 9 o'clock, whether you're a regular or you can pop in because you have a 2-hour delay at school.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm always impressed by is that people keep it on their calendars. So even if they can only pop in once every 6 weeks, they pop in. So again, Mastermind is always here for you.
That's awesome. Yes. So this morning was kind of a bridge topic from last week. We were talking about like individual goals and how that was connecting to the campus level. And then today was more about summative evaluations and about providing feedback to your teachers and your staff. And so the first question, just kind of as a baseline, was really about the approach that admin has in regards to the assessment process. Because as we know, a lot of our participants are spread out throughout the country. We even have some folks in Canada. So it looks very different for each person. So Bobby, kind of what was like the takeaway for you in regards to, the current approach by many of our admin participants?
Well, I think, like you said, Josh, it kind of depends also where you are and what's required at your state to help teachers. I think one of the things that we really, we talked about was that evidence collection piece and how it looks different, in different places. Here in Massachusetts, we're starting to roll out a new rubric and what that looks like. Or what does your summatives look like for your new teachers versus, your veteran teachers? Because that can be so different as well. I know for me, I've started really focusing on my, what we call our non-professional status teachers to really support them and see what they need. So again, the evaluations should be to support teachers, not anything that's a gotcha or an aha, so how do we, work with them? And I think a lot of our, mastermind participants shared, some of those ideas and whether that was at, the high school level and how you meet with them or the difference between a principal or an assistant principal, kind of overseeing teachers. And I think some of the different strategies and how through formal observation, walkthroughs, providing positive notes for feedback after an observation, there were a lot of different strategies that were shared.
Yeah. I thought too, the whole idea of like not providing just busy work or a song and dance, trying to find a system for your teachers to make sure that it's going to be something that's going to create growth, not just about getting tasks done. And I loved that viewpoint of things and how things were kind of being shifted on different campuses. But you're right. I mean, I know in the state of Texas, me and you talked about this, like the rubric changed, the verbiage changed, a lot of things changed. And so our veteran teachers probably had a tougher time with that shift than our younger teachers, because for the younger teachers, it was just what they always knew, right? Where, we had to have a mind shift in regards to language and whatnot. And so even the informal evaluations, the observations, the walkthroughs, all that changed also. And so, a lot of people have to kind of get used to a lot of different procedures consistently changing. And that's hard for a lot of folks.
Yeah, but I think one of the nice things when we talked about some of those changes is how we've gotten away from those really big binder portfolios.
Yes.
Again, when you talk about the tasks, like we want our teachers to do things that are meaningful for them to show what they've learned, what's working for them, or how they want to grow. And, there was no reason that you need to put together this beautiful, I'm at the elementary level. See, our elementary teachers want everything to look pretty. So they spend more time on making these binders look pretty, than actually providing evidence that can support you as a teacher. So I think that all of us, in our districts that have scaled back on that, to really, we want it to work for our teachers and we want to make it more meaningful. I think that's important.
Yep. So Bobby, you had talked about strategies, and I want to kind of dig into that a little bit more, because our conversation shifted over to like, how do we enhance participation throughout the entire school year for the evaluation process, probably more specific to individual goals, because as we know, it's really heavy at the beginning of the school year as far as admin, giving PD to staff, talking through the rubric, talking about the goal setting and how to do that in a very, I don't know, like in-depth way with data and whatnot. And then we go, as the year goes on, we get busy, and a lot of times our teachers will wait for the end of the school year to be able to put in their evidence and really focus on that personalized goal. So what were some strategies that kind of stuck out for you to kind of enhance that participation, so it's not just beginning of the school year and the end of the school year?
Well, and I think, like I had shared, for me, I started meeting with all my non-professional status teachers monthly, just kind of doing that myself to see, how are they doing, so that they're also, those goals are in the forefront, but also we're in the middle of, mid-year-ish evidence collection. So they knew from me exactly what my expectations were. What I really like that I took away too is one of our participants shared how they sort of made a list. So if you're talking about family engagement, here are all the things that you could include or choose from as family engagement.
Yep.
So that I definitely took a note of myself too, to kind of make that. I think for teachers to have their own sort of exemplars and what that looks like when we're asking them to provide evidence, it is helpful. And we also had a participant share about how teachers could almost pick their passion goals, so more individualized too, that they were working on. And so I think if teachers are going to do that, you need a way to keep track, or that you're still providing support. So if one teacher's, trying to bring art more into their classroom, or a teacher's trying to, work more in their transitions with students and not do it the same way each time, that as administrators, how do we support them in some of those really individualized goals, that they have? So I liked some of those ideas as well that were shared.
Yeah. I thought you had brought up a good point too, Bobby, in regards to like getting into classrooms often. And then when you saw certain things going on in the classroom, having that side conversation and informally to say like, hey, this is a wonderful thing that you can connect to your goal, or this is a wonderful piece of evidence that you could, enhance, your rating going in and to the summative evaluation. So I think a lot of times our teachers naturally do things in the classroom and they don't make that connection to actually collect that art as an artifact to put into their end goal.
Well, and I think that's because we talked about most of our teachers wait till 3 days before it's due to actually collect their evidence, So
Yep.
they don't think about, that lesson I had 3 Tuesdays ago. And
Yep.
so, yeah, that was one of the other insights that I had while we were talking, was because I'm in the classrooms all the time. I hate it when I have days of meetings that I can't get in there. So I'm always just walking through and I'm present, but trying to be a little bit more focused on some of those teachers and their needs or their goals, to be able to say, that was a fabulous lesson. Why don't you take a few minutes and write that up to save that as evidence? Or I take a lot of pictures to myself when I'm in the classrooms to do a weekly snapshot at the end of the week for our parents. So, even sending a picture of a lesson as a reminder and say, that math lesson was great. You used that turn and talk well. Students understood your learning goal. Here, use this as your evidence and write this up, so that we're helping them to remember that this is a year-long process, not what can I pull out for some evidence 3 days before I have to put it into my system.
Yeah.
So as us, again, and that shows that we're there to support them and saying, hey, this was great. Use this as evidence. This was fantastic. Use this as evidence as we go throughout the school year.
Yeah, I love that. All right. So Bobby, the last kind of piece that we talked about was just procedures that we have in place to provide feedback throughout the evaluation period, because as we know, at the end of the school year for admin, we have to make some really difficult choices in regards to contracts for the following year. Some things that we see are potentially alarming, and we need to put someone on a plan to make sure that they're, really taking advantage of the time that they have left over the school year to get better in that situation. So, what are some things that you heard or learned about from other people in regards to things that they put in place to provide feedback for growth?
Well, I think, as I had mentioned a little bit earlier too, is some of those notes after. So if you do an observation, that's at least 5 minutes, some people would provide, some notes or feedback. So, if what you saw, is positive and you want to see more of that, people were leaving positive notes or sending positive emails, or, a lot of people talked about the Danielson model, and with a lot of that too is having those face-to-face conversations afterwards. So making sure that you're providing some of that feedback along the way, and then you're not just waiting for formal times if you have a teacher that needs to make improvement. We're all dictated by, contracts and process and procedures, but outside of that, we can have that personal piece where we're talking to them and we're letting them know, by that ongoing feedback. And some of it is just questions, I asking teachers, about things that you did see, you didn't see, and having those conversations. But I think it's, as administrators, what I heard is people making sure that they're connecting with those teachers throughout the year and providing that feedback in one way or another in an ongoing manner.
Yeah. I think the personalized learning component too was really strong in regards to, learning about the teacher, but then also figuring out what are some areas of growth and providing those opportunities for them to learn and to grow. So we do that with our students, all the time. We need to make sure that we're doing the same thing with our teachers and our staff.
Exactly. Modeling it right there at the adult level, the things that we would expect to see for our students.
Yeah. Well, I love this conversation. I think, going into next week, I know in our wonderful Facebook group, and if you haven't joined yet, this is the link. Make sure that you're going there. But several people have brought some additional topics for next week. I know staff interviews is a really big topic right now as we're starting to look at like I said, our contracts, our staffing, looking for the following school year, and those interviews are starting already for some of our admins. So I think that'll be the topic next week, just for those who are watching, to give you a little insight on what we're going to be talking about and discussing. But yeah, I'm super excited about, just the conversations we've had. It's been extremely rich. I love the participation that we've seen. And then, of course, like I said, just some faces that we haven't seen for a while. But Bobby, you're always just such a presence in this group, and I just appreciate what you're doing not only on campus but with this admin group, and I just love that you're showing up each Tuesday, and I appreciate you joining me today here on the Admin Mastermind Recap.
No, it's fantastic. Thanks for inviting me, Josh. I look forward to my Tuesdays, and I'm glad that I'm back to being somewhat of a regular every Tuesday. I've missed it.
Well, for those who missed this week, we hope that you would join us next week, 9 a.m. Eastern time each week. So with that, I just hope everyone has a fantastic week.